Hello, friends. I'm Andrea Morris, and welcome to another episode of Spill the Wine, a podcast about wine. We're so excited to be here today at 30 Bench, and I am talking to Emma Garner today. I want to say Gardner, but it's Garner.
I do like gardening, but Garner's how we roll. Yeah.
We've taken the gardening out of Garner.
That's right. You got it.
Thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
30 Bench is a really cool winery, listener. I wish that you could see what I'm seeing right now, but when you look at the show notes, you will see photographs. It's just an absolutely beautiful surrounding on the bench, and you just feel like your stress level decreases exponentially when you're sitting here drinking wine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the altitude of the bench just helps make it a little more relaxing.
I think so, because you can look out and you can see the lake, and you just feel like,
the traffic of Toronto on the People's blood pressure. Exactly. You got it.
I'm not stressed out. I'm drinking wine. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, 30 Bench is a winery that's a part of like a bigger conglomerate, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So we are a part of Andrew Peller Limited. So our history, we were purchased by Andrew Peller Limited back in 2005. Prior to that, talk a little bit about the history of the winery, if that sounds like a good thing to help the listeners understand.
Of course.
30 Bench started by essentially a passion project of three amateur winemakers. So a doctor, a lawyer, and a professor. So it almost sounds like the start of a joke. But
I was just going to say.
Right, no, it's the start of a really amazing thing up here on the bench. So professionals by day, a ton of wine passion, and wanted to start a winery. So this is going back to the 80s. So as you can imagine, starting to even think about planting vinifera grape varieties in this region was not very frequent, certainly not as frequent as it is today. So Dr. Muckle, who was essentially the mind behind finding this location, this specific location, he had done a ton of research in regards to where it made the most sense to plant grapes. Riesling was his passion. Those were the first grapes that he planted. His other two partners, Yorgos and Frank, had their own passion projects. Yorgos was in charge of making the red wine. Frank was in charge of making the dessert wine. And together, the three of them essentially started the winery. So the doors opened. Actually, we just had our 35th anniversary. So 1994 was our first year. And we've essentially just been making wine on the bench ever since. So in 2005, to just circle back to that topic, as you can imagine, the chaps were getting older, didn't necessarily have the same energy to divide amongst all of their interests. So they were looking to get out of the industry, or at least get out of winemaking. And after we made the sale, they did stay connected with us for a couple of years, which was great, just to have that transition. And as a result, in 2005, it actually worked out quite well, because as you can imagine, at that point in time, the winery needed some injection of cash and new ideas. And that was one of the biggest benefits of it being purchased by a bigger company. So all of this area that we're sitting in here today, this was their production area. We had tanks back here, and now we've got a new tank and oak vat area in a different part of the winery. So this, what we're looking at, was not being shared with the public. Like, it's not that they were hiding it, but they just weren't showcasing it the same way. And I was fortunate at the time. I was working with Andrew Peller Limited. Just came down to study at Brock, and part of the program is to do various placements. My very first one actually it wasn't my very first one, but one of them was with J.L. Grew at Hillebrand Winery back in the day, which was called Hillebrand. It's now called Trias Winery. And they were looking to hire on a winemaker full-time. So after I'd finished my R&D winemaking position with him, I ended up in the company. So in 2005, when the thought of purchasing 30 Bench came into our world, I was so excited, because when I first came down to this area, this was one of the wineries that you came to get Riesling, to get big reds. And it's such a juxtaposition, because there's not many places in the world where you can find world-class Riesling and world-class Cabs in the same property. So it really is a very special place. And I've been fortunate to be able to work here for so long and just see its development throughout the years.
Now, with 30 Bench, are all the wines that you make here grown from grapes on this property?
Yes, yeah. There are a couple of properties that we lease that are not directly owned, or at least part of this property, but there's two of them that butt up right against them. So just on the far east side of the property, as well as the far north side of the property, we lease a little piece of Cab Franc, and on the far east, we lease a little bit of Riesling. There's another one that's just a little ways down the road that's got some more Bordeaux reds, but for the most part, everything that goes into our small lot portfolio comes off of the estate.
It's such a beautiful surrounding, and I know that Riesling is one of your specialties here.
Yes.
Obviously, because was it the doctor, the lawyer?
It was the doctor, yes. Yeah, there was the doctor that loved the Riesling. And those were the first vines that he planted as well. So our oldest planting dates back to 1980.
Wow.
So they were growing grapes for some time before they put a shovel in the ground and had a winery to help have a throughput for a cellar door, I should say. Because again, back in those days, that was crazy. And there were no other wineries up here on the bench in this area. We were the first one.
Yeah, I remember coming up here when I first started working at a record label in 1996, and there were very few wineries. But I'd come to Toronto on business, and I'd always stop at wineries on the way home. And it's like, you think about it now. But I don't even think I knew that 30 Bench existed then. Because I was always just on the main road.
Yep, that's fair.
Yeah.
We're tucked away.
Yeah. But it's cool that it really has that history.
Yeah, it's the real deal, right? Like it's something that, again, and I'm so grateful to be able to work with the grapes that were planted so long ago and to be able to sculpt the wines that someone had the vision to plant and to be able to carry on that tradition is something that's really special for me.
Do you still have the creativity to kind of veer off of what the norm is, or do you have to kind of keep to a certain dynamic?
We have what I would consider to be our core, what we know we can do well every year. But I think part of the fun and part of the appeal of being a winemaker is every year is different. So you need to be able to listen to the winery. You need to be able to, not the winery necessarily, but the vines and the season, and take your cues from nature and how the fruit's developing so you don't miss opportunities. Because if I were to go out and I'm making a Riesling that looks like this every single year, I might miss something. So I've had some opportunities throughout the years, and actually a couple of the wines today, we'll talk a little bit about how we've changed our approach of making those wines because of things that I've learned or things that we were talking about the community that is the Beamsville Bench, working with some of the winemakers there and seeing some things that work really well with their fruit, trying it with ours. Does it work? Does it not? So being open to new ways of doing it is really important, but also knowing what you do really well and not being too diverse, I think, is important also.
Right, because you've had such a history as a winery that people come here expecting that this is what this Riesling is going to taste like. And
we don't need to reinvent everything every year, right? We know what works, but that's part of the fun. And I've been doing this for a lot of years now, and that's what keeps me really inspired every year is knowing that we've got a fresh slate every year to come in and to see how the fruit's reacting and just to be able to try some new things, because even in the world of wine, there's, as you can imagine, so many new technologies, so many new yeast strains, so many new ways of making wine. Still, the core is the same, but you can play around a little bit just because you're always trying to get better every year. I
think I always think about like a wine like a rosé, which you can really play around with because you could do it with a Gamay, a Pinot Noir. There's so many, a Cab Franc. I suppose year after year you can go what grapes are going to fit this best.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good example. And just how you make rosés as well. You can direct press or saignée, or there's so many different methods where rosés are a really fun one to make. And that's a great example of there are no rules. Every year you can sort of play around a little bit more, and yeah, it's fun.
And what about with is there a favorite wine that you have to make?
Oh boy. Yeah, I really love making Riesling. So I think here's a great fit for me. But also just dialing in our red program also, because I know just trying to keep that heritage alive. And reds, there are a lot more variations. They're a bit more forgiving, I would say, than Riesling is. Riesling is a very delicate grape variety to work with and to ferment. The reds, you can just be a little bit rougher with, and you can figure out things in regards to cap management and temperature fermentation and all those sort of things. So I think there's stuff to be learned from either stream. But I do love making Riesling.
I've done tastings here with your Rieslings, and I'm always amazed at how you have one grape, but you can have 3 different Rieslings that all taste completely different, grown basically in the same area.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, again, thinking back to the research that was done on this property and going back to the beginning of our small lot program. We've got one of the small lot wines to taste today. The planting of the block that's out here is essentially spanned from 1980 to 1984. So between 80 and 81, one block was planted, 82, another block was planted, and then 83 and 84, the final block was planted. We've since planted a little bit more, but just to focus on the first 3 original blocks, that was sort of how we arbitrarily subdivided the vineyard when we started to dig in a little bit more to small lot winemaking. And what are the differences? Are there differences? Can we make wines that are really diverse, knowing that there's so much diversity within the vineyard? We partnered with Brock as well as the University of Guelph at that time, just to see from a land standpoint, from a soil standpoint, looking at aerial photography, GIS, all that sort of stuff, to see what's the difference in that small acreage. Because essentially it's about, those acres would be about 23 or so of that piece of property, a piece of the property. And we'd subdivided them based on the years, but we called them Triangle Vineyard because it was shaped like a triangle, and Steel Post Vineyard because the vineyard was actually held up with steel post. You got it. And then wood post, as you can see, has got the wood post in the block as well. So not very creative naming, but at least anyone could walk out in the vineyard and know where they were and which block it was. And so we kept all of those blocks separate. We noticed that there was some difference in respect to vigor within those blocks, so keeping those sections separate as well. And it was a 2-year project. And at the end of the project, we realized, and again, working with the universities, did a whole ton of analytical analysis on the wines from a compositional standpoint, from a chemical standpoint, as well as a sensory standpoint. And what it came down to was just the soil's ability to retain water. So the compositional difference in the soil, higher sand, higher clay, whatever the case may be, the way the soil held on to that water directly impacted the flavor characteristics that were found in the wine. So the wine that had higher water stress ended up being more aromatic or had higher levels of terpenes, which was our triangle block, which was really interesting because that was the block, or the wines that were made from that block tended to be the ones that were the showiest in their youth, and they would win awards. And so it sort of correlated what we had assumed there would be some differences, but it was nice to have that validation from a scientific standpoint as well. So it was really cool. Yeah. And so we've sort of kept that ever since, and every year now it's fun. We've got all these verticals going back to 2005 where you can taste like wood post for the last 20 years. Like, what does it look like? And all the different seasons. And it's a fun program.
So there's kind of consistency in
You got it. Yes. Yeah, you've got it.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's neat.
So you kind of know kind of what you're expecting from those grapes.
Yes. Triangle and steel really tend to react very similar year to year. Wood post keeps me guessing. It tends to keep me on my toes. And it's funny, the last couple of years, it's been the one that's been really out in front in respect to winning awards. And why, I'm not sure. Like, our approach to making wine from it hasn't really changed. But I guess it's just the year, the age of the vines, all that sort of stuff. It's all rolls in. That's, again, one of the fun parts about wine is there's some mysterious things that you can never replicate it again. So you can't really say exactly what contributed to it. But it just keeps you coming back to try again the following year.
It just reminds me of like when we did a podcast with Adam from Cloudsley, and he said, like every bottle is a stamp in time.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuck with me because it's so true, because you could have wine from the same vineyard year after year and it never tastes exactly the same.
And it's funny, my husband, there's an ongoing joke. I'll be like, just go grab a bottle of wine. He's like, I'm going to grab the wrong one. Always, right? And he's not wrong. He always grabs the wrong one. And I try to articulate that's like a snapshot of like a part of my life right there. Like, I remember that day. I remember when we were harvesting it. I remember the trials and tribulations. So we're not drinking that one today. This is what I wanted you to grab. So poor guy, he tries his best, but it's my fault. So we have a wine rack that's the accessible stuff to him. It's all fair game. It's around there.
You should have little sticky notes
exactly.
with this. No,
not this one. Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Today that feels good. So. That's right. Yeah.
That's a great analogy. I love that. But I'm always like that when I'm cooking. I'm like, what do I want to drink with this?
Yes.
And then sometimes I'm like, but I don't really want to drink that. Maybe I should have cooked something different, because maybe I should figure out what it is I want to drink and then cook accordingly.
Cook around it. That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. But wine does really complement food so well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Those were, the big reason why I got into the industry is just, I remember the tasting. I was doing an intro to wine class at Brock with Linda Bramble. And I remember that day, it was the class where she was looking at Parmigiano and Tuscan wines. And that was the first time when I really had that wine and food, oh my God, moment where I love this cheese, I love this wine, but then together, absolutely spectacular. Yeah, they're go to another level.
Mind blown. Boom.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's a lot more to be had here. And there is. It's the possibilities are limitless, which is fun.
Yay. Well, we've got like possibilities laid out in front of us here. So what are we going to start with, Emma?
So we are going to start with our sparkling Riesling. So this Riesling, it is not vintage dated, not because it's changes from year to year. Sometimes it's from one specific year, sometimes it's not. But with what some of the rules for VQA, it has to have at least 12 months of lees aging, and that's not always the case. So we just decided not to put the vintage on it, but it's always 100% Riesling from one of our vineyard blocks. And 99% of the time it comes from our wood post block. So this would be no exception here. It's traditional methods, so bottle fermentation. Again, not looking to have an over amount of lees aging, anything along those lines. Looking to have a little bit of, as you can see, the best part from my perspective of traditional method sparkling. Bubbles that last a long time, really fine, delicate mousse, and a really racy, snappy Riesling, which is something that we tend to focus wholeheartedly on here.
It's just fun watching the bubbles just consistently come up and just...
Yeah, it's a thing.
It's happiness.
It is. It really is. Yeah, I love it.
How can you drink bubbly and not be happy?
That's right. I'm not trying hard enough.
It's funny because like I know people that would expect to drink a bubbly Riesling and that it would be slightly sweet.
Yes.
This is so nice and dry and just so...
It's got an electric acidity, which I really love. Almost like a lemon zest to it. And it's what, and again, really wanted that acid to be the driver of this wine. We're always trying to overcome that misnomer of like, oh, it's Riesling, oh, it's sweet, oh, I don't like Riesling. And this wine obviously totally tips that notion on its head. The bubbles really help to amplify the acidity as well. But for me, when I'm enjoying sparkling wine, I want something that's laser focused so that I can enjoy with oysters, with a variety of food, sitting on the patio. And it's a wine that I enjoy to drink. So that was one of the inspirations behind making it. And knowing Riesling is so diverse, and as we've started to dial in the vineyard a little bit more over the years, just to your question and point earlier about do you always do the same thing? No, we don't. Like we do figure out, you know what, that block is underperforming. This variety does really well here. Maybe we should look to plant some of that there, and we can talk a little bit more as we go through the wines. But this Riesling is just an example of that because it wasn't always a part of our portfolio of how we can create a different wine style that's not just a part of our small lot program that helps to show the diversity of Riesling. Cab Franc is another reason why we've sort of hung our hat on that because you can make so many different wine styles from it.
Where does that idea that Riesling is sweet, where does that come from?
I think just historically, when you think back to the Black Tower, the Blue Nun days when they were insipid white wines, everyone just thought that that's what it was, right? They were easy to drink because they were sweet. There was no acid. And I think it was just the palates at the time. So I think that's where the perception comes from. And a lot of the times there is some residual sugar in Riesling. Good Rieslings are balanced, but some people are just like, think that they don't like any sugar at all. But when it's done well and when it's balanced with acidity, it's, as you know, a very beautiful semblance of what it could be. So I think that people just have that perception. Sugar's bad. I don't want it in my wine. I don't want it in my food.
But then there are some people that just like, I love a sweeter wine.
There are, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just the history of Riesling and bad Riesling that was flooding the market back in the 80s that I think did a lot of damage that we're still trying to recover from.
Undo that damage.
Yeah, exactly. You got it.
The other thing I noticed about the serving of this Riesling is that it's not super cold.
No. And you want it to have, like, it's chilled.
Yeah.
But you don't want it to be so cold that you can't get the aromatics. So you'll notice as you have a glass of wine on your table and as you let it sit there, it changes. Part of that's because of its interaction with oxygen, but also because of the temperature changing as well.
But I think there's like, we talked about this with Alex when we were at Hidden Bench about how there's that perception that champagne or bubbly needs to be served really cold.
Yeah.
But I always find the more it warms up, the more I enjoy it.
Yeah, because it's more interesting, right?
Yeah.
You get more out of it.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm with you. It still needs to be chilled. I like it on the cooler side, but definitely not stone cold.
But it's just it's a really approachable, bubbly, and it makes me happy. The sight of bubbles always makes me happy. I'm like, yay. And it's always my favorite way to start a wine tasting.
Yeah, me too.
Like, give me some bubbles.
Cleanse the palate. open up. Let's have some bubbles.
Let's hit the road and go.
That's right. I'm with you.
So I think we have a Riesling coming up next,
Awesome,
right?
we do, yes. So this is our 2021 Wood Post Riesling. As I mentioned, Wood Post was planted back in between 83 and 84, so it was 9 acres in size. So they would typically plant about 4 acres per year. I'm not sure if that's because those are the vines that they could get access to, but obviously there's a lot of investment that you need to pay in order to plant vines. So they split it over 2 years. You can see just by the gnarliness of the vines, just the age and the experience, if you will.
It's like an arthritic hand.
Yeah, I know. It's a thing of beauty. I love looking at those vines. And you can see throughout the years, like there's some various thickness of the trunks. And there was a time when we would go through and actually pick the younger vines and keep them separate from the block, just so we were always guaranteed to get the oldest vines going into the small lot program. But a lot of the times, and as we were noticing, the skinnier vines or the skinnier trunks don't necessarily relate to younger vines. So sometimes throughout the years, there could be some damage done to the trunk from winter. So the trunk has some damage, but the root system is still established. So it's not dead. So in those instances, we would train what we call a sucker up. And that sucker is a shoot that comes out at the base of the vine, and that becomes the new trunk over time. So that root system is still the same as the old vine. So we've actually just started to go back to a bit more of an efficient way of picking and find that just the complexity of those different vines have actually contributed to the finished product as well.
Do you hand pick here or machine pick?
We do, yes. For the most part, everything is hand picked, specifically for the small lot Rieslings and our Winemakers Riesling for that matter.
Now, this Riesling is very light in color.
Yeah, and you can smell like
really citrusy.
Very citrusy. I love to get that lime. There's a ton of lime I find in the wines that we make here. A little bit of that wet rock characteristic as well. And what I find is like the
key lime pie.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. You got it. The spectrum of the citrus kind of changes as you go east. Like the triangle tends to have a lot more orange citrus, so you get orange blossoms, some florality as well. Whereas as you come west, this is where it really becomes that limey characteristic, which is synonymous with bench Riesling as well.
It's really beautiful. I love that lime. I get lemon a lot of time on Riesling, but this is lime, and it's just it really does taste like key lime pie to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without the graham cracker crust.
Without the graham cracker crust. And 21 was an exceptionally challenging vintage. It was a lot of winemakers have some PTSD from it. It was really challenging in respect to rot and just a lot of rain. So it's a struggle. It's a real struggle. And we were fortunate when we picked this. We got ahead of when things really went sideways from a high moisture levels, high rot levels, but that's when hand picking comes in handy too. Like there's going to be some collateral damage out there. Grapes have a soft skin. So when it's really high humidity, high heat, they'll rot. That's just the way it is. especially when there's sugar in the mix as well. But when you're hand picking, you can go through and pick out the bunches that you specifically want. And that's how we were able to create such a beautiful wine from a vintage that was such a challenge.
Well, I always think about it like 2020 was such an easy year, and anybody could make a great wine in 2020. But 2021 is when you know who a great winemaker is, because it was such a challenging year. Mm-hmm. And this is stunning. This is so good.
And you can feel it's got a little bit of that residual sugar, but
like on the back of my tongue, I can feel that.
But then the acid just finishes clean, which is what we're always aiming to do with the wines.
Yeah, but this area is just known for its Riesling as well. So, which is what I love. Riesling, people often talk about the bench, and they always focus on like Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. But I think a lot of times people forget that Riesling is just so prevalent here and grows so well here.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're starting to see, or what I'm starting to see more, and I'm really happy, is Cab Franc. Like Pinot and Chard, yes, there's been and I think it's because there are some producers that solely focus on that. So it really helps amplify what those two great varieties can do here. But for us, our two mainstay varieties, Riesling and Cab Franc.
And Gamay is coming is also all of a sudden becoming like huge.
People
here.
Are paying attention. Yeah, there was a time when it was just like, who cares about Gamay? Like,
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah,
like honestly, when I
but
first started drinking wine, I was like, oh, I'll try Gamay, and then I got to be like, Gamay, ugh.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I love Gamay.
Yeah, and people are taking it more seriously too. Right, like just the makers of Gamay, and there's some really amazing ones in the area. And I think a lot of it comes down to us as a community getting better at growing grapes, knowing what grows well where, and as a result, being able to make better wine from those grapes. So this is our 2021 extended barrel-aged Chard. So within our portfolio, I'm like in your face, that's a beautiful, punchy wine. Our approach to Chard historically was more or less always the same. So we were talking a little bit about how we approach winemaking here. We've got 2 blocks of Chard about halfway down the vineyard. They were part of the second phase of the planting. So the north side of the driveway was planted more or less in 2000 without taking out of the equation what it is that we've replanted. I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But the Chard was, again, part of their experimental blocks. So Clone 95, Clone 96. We would handpick them all separately. We would, within those blocks, have a variety of different yeast strains, some wild batches. So at the end of the day, we can make the most complex wine that we can make from that vintage. Part of the tasting program that we've been working through, a bunch of bench tasters get together every year and we taste through our various, we'll focus on Riesling one time, Chardonnay, Pinot, and actually we've got the Cabernet Franc one next week, which I'm really excited about. Gamay has just joined that roster of tastings too, which is really cool. But Chard, just talking to the winemakers, they tended to age their Chard for a longer period of time in oak barrels than we did here. We would typically age it for 10 months. That was always sort of what our small up program was built on. 21, although it was a challenging year, there was a lot of fruit that came from it. So we took what we needed to fulfill the demand for what we needed for 2021, and I kept a few barrels back just to see, like, okay, maybe this is something that could bode well for our style of wine here as well. And it actually benefited us twofold. That winter was devastating. So there was a short crop year in 2022. So we actually didn't make any Chardonnay from vintage 22 because our block got hit so badly. Luckily, again, one of those little happenstance moments that just happened to work out for the better, that Chard that we had kept in barrel looked great. It looked, well, actually, we were really happy with it, and we didn't have a 22 to flip to anyway. So we were really fortunate to be able to present this wine. And like it so much and like that styling so much that we've actually moved all of our Chardonnay winemaking to the longer period in barrel. So we don't keep Chard in barrel for just 10 months now. It depends on the year, but we're sitting around the 18 to 24 month mark. So rather than pull out the wine in the August before the new harvest starts, it'll stay in there till the following spring. And as a result, I find the wine's just a little bit more evolved. You get it. You see extended barrel on the label and you think, oh my gosh, it's going to be over the top oaky, but it's not. And it's the tannins have had more time to mesh, and the oak, I find, has got more time to integrate with the wine as well.
No, it doesn't taste overly oaky. It's just a really drinkable Chardonnay.
And it's got
I find a lot of people have that anti-Chardonnay thing too.
Yep, for sure. And I've been guilty of it in some times as well. And I think for a long time, again, similar to Riesling is sweet, Chard is too oaky. There's a long time where a lot of that was on the market, and just various conferences. I4C is something that has been around now for some time. And that weekend, you get to taste a million Chardonnays and see all the very different reasons that it's an amazing grape variety, because it's got so many different facets. It's a winemaker's grape because you can choose whether you put oak in it, whether you don't use oak, whether you mallow it, whether you don't mallow it, and whether how you treat it in the vineyard. There's so many different ways that you can approach it that it is really a very creative spot for winemakers to make their mark, I would say.
We've had some great quotes about Chardonnay over the course of the podcast.
No doubt.
Oh, yeah. Ron from Wending said Chardonnay is the chicken of the vineyard because you can make chicken so many different ways. Mm-hmm. You can make Chardonnay. And then Ilya from Leaning Post said that Chardonnay is the pizza of the vineyard. Mm-hmm. Same thing. So
yep.
Now it's time for you, Emma.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, what food can I parallel it with? It's like one of those ice cream bars where you can add your own toppings. Like
the ice cream bar of the vineyard. Yeah.
There you go. That's right. Exactly. Conjures up all kinds of images.
I love our different glasses that we have here as well, too.
Yes.
Each one seems to really spotlight the wine so perfectly.
Yeah. And we do actually, one of the tasting experiences here at 30 Benches the art of the glass, essentially, in helping to demonstrate the different shape of the bowl and how it does help amplify the characteristics of the wine when you use certain wine shapes with certain wine varieties. It's one of those things. It's like, really? Is that true? And I remember sitting through my first Spiegelau tasting, and I was like, actually, it was a Riedel tasting at Inniskillen a million years ago, and I was blown away. I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. There's a big difference. And it certainly helps to take the wine to the next level again. But in the next glass, just as we're switching gears, going to some reds, this is our 2021 small lot Pinot Noir.
Love Pinot Noir.
Pinot, we've got one little planting of it. It actually butts up against the Chardonnay, again, planted in 2000. It's Clone 115. And it's a variety. Pinot it's a tough variety. I'm sure you've heard that lots as you've been working through the podcast episodes with the producers up here. It's one of those great varieties that you got to be a bit of a glutton for punishment to continue to love it and follow it and chase it and try to tease out of it what you can. And that's something that for my winemaking career I've been working on, because it's one of those varieties that really needs a lot of attention, and it needs to be listened to and to figure out what you can do with it in your specific vineyard. So it's something that we've really been trying to dial in over the years. Handpick everything again from this block. We'll manage it really closely in respect to crop level as well, because it's got such a thin skin. It's something that's really prone to disease, which is part of the reason why it's such a troublesome grape variety. So one of the tactics that we've employed over the past few years is something that we call a pre-pick. So we will have a certain crop load at the beginning of the season, and we'll watch those grapes develop and grow and ripen throughout the season. And once it gets to a certain point, usually around 2 weeks before when we will actually pick our table wine, we'll go through and do something that we refer to as the pre-pick. So we will pre-pick the bunches that are kind of clumping, that are kind of touching now, that are causing some congestion in the fruit zone, and try to get it to the point where that fruit is usable in another wine. So rosé, just as you were talking about earlier, that's a great use of this fruit because it's got that beautiful acidity. It's got some beautiful light characteristics. It's almost like making a white and a red in the same block. So we'll handpick that out of the way, so then any of the other remaining bunches just have now all of the attention and energy coming from that vine. And it's almost like you can see a weight is lifted from the vine and then continues on ripening the remaining bunches. And again, just helping to manage that potential disease pressure. It's worked out really well for us. Handpick balance of the Pinot, and then we'll ferment it in our wood vats. They hold about 4 tons. Really delicate in respect to cap management. Started to play around a little bit with whole bunch in the vats as well. So we'll put some whole bunches at the bottom of the fermenter, and then we'll crush Pinot on top, the balance of the Pinot on top, I should say. And then sometimes we inoculate it, sometimes we don't. We typically will have 2 of them. There's one yeast strain that works really well for me, and it comes out as a really fruity, delicious wine. And then the wild ferment tends to not have I wouldn't necessarily say approachable aromatics, but as appealing aromatics. It's a bit more beefy and mealy, but what you lose in aromatics, you gain in structure. So we'll have these 2 separate, we'll run them to 2 separate barrel groups, and then we'll figure out the percentage of each one that will go into the finished wine. And this Pinot, similar to what I was discussing for the Chardonnay, how we've approached barrel aging, because there's a 21 extended barrel aged Pinot as well. Same story. We didn't have any Pinot in 22. We had the excess from 21, and now we have continued to house the Pinot in barrels for a longer than a 10-month period.
This is a really beautiful Pinot as well. It's just got the color is gorgeous, and it's just the taste just continues to linger. Even after I've had a sip and I'm just sitting here, I can still taste it in my mouth. Just like, I like that.
Yeah, me too. It's got a nice intensity.
Should have wine-flavored lipstick.
Yeah. There you go. That's another great idea.
I have a million great ideas today, Lucas. He's shaking his head no. But
I'm just thinking the officer's like, have you been drinking? You're like, no,
it's my lipstick. My lipstick is tasted. It's affecting the breathalyzer.
Yeah, it's again a great food wine too. Like there's some tannins that are present there, but not too overpowering, and can go with so many different foods.
Yeah. This is really nice. And this is the 2021.
Yes, you got it.
Love it. Don't even want to. Again, let's just stop now.
I know. We could have taken a pause a few times. I agree.
Now, you know what? I'm looking at the glass too. Now, with the Pinot glass, do you want it to be like this one has and we have a picture of this, listener, on the website, but this one has like that little cup at the bottom, and then like it's not a small base at the top, but it's a wider base. Do you need that for the Pinot to breathe?
And for the aromatics to come out, right? Like the angle of the sides of the glass are to help contain the aromatics, so they're there for you when you want to breathe them in. But it definitely, with the wider opening, helps to get oxygen in there. And because it's more bulbous in the middle, it's easier to swirl it just to help integrate some of that oxygen to help with some of those aromatics that need to be elevated.
There's a really nice nose on this too.
Yeah, I get
I don't know why I get a little pepper, but also like
cherry,
plum and cherry,
for sure, and a little bit of that characteristic, the florist floor that you can find in some Pinots as well. It's got that earthy characteristic.
I love those earthy Pinots where you're just like, I feel like I'm tasting
camping.
Yeah. I'm camping in like the ashes of the fire or something. It's like so good,
just so natural. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why people keep coming back to it, right? It turns on you, but people just want to continue to help bring it to life.
But I love that this area is just so wonderful for Pinot, because of the minerality in the earth, and it's just such a beautiful place to live, to be able to have Pinot like this, like at your fingertips.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And although it's not one of our main focuses, we're again so fortunate to have older planters, like they're 25 years old, those vines now here and established, and to be able to play with a variety that does so well on the bench. We don't tend to make a lot of it every year, but it's something that is a part of our portfolio.
Is there a point when the vines get too old?
I don't think, there's a few different ways you can look at that. They kind of manage themselves in respect to what they can do. So crop load of an older vine tends to be lower than a younger vine. A younger vine tends to ripen more quickly and accumulate sugars earlier than an older vine will. So it's almost like that slow and steady race. It may get to a point where it's no longer viable from a fruit production standpoint. But with the vines that we have here, like 40, 45 years, that's still in that nice old vine band where they're producing great, intense fruit. As we talked earlier, they can get damaged. They can get disease. They can get tractor disease too. They get clipped by some of the workers in the vineyard. But for the most part, if they're well maintained, they've got enough food, they've got enough water, they're very resilient.
They look great. And so far, so good with their
production.
Good, right. Yeah. Now we have
I'm curious, are animals ever an issue? Like, I know, aside from bugs and things like that, like I'm thinking like coyotes or raccoons or things get eating the grapes themselves. Is there any?
There can be. So coyotes, no. So some people actually use sheep to help in the vineyard because they'll help remove the leaves in the fruit zone and they won't eat the berries. What we struggle with the most, bird pressure, is the worst because they'll, like at that time of year, nice dark colored berries, they come and they don't necessarily eat the whole berry, but they'll peck and they'll do damage, which is then, it's like an open wound. So now you've got a disease point. But down at Peller, actually, we've got a bit of planting, and Peller backs up against Riverbend, the hotel that's there, and there's a vineyard that's planted there, and we always get the call of like the geese are eating the grapes. So that's always our, okay, we got to get in there. We got to get those picked because those are our biggest issues.
Geese, that's why they're flying.
Right, exactly. They're like, I've had my fill. I'm heading south. Thanks for the memories.
So you don't have issues with squirrels, right?
Squirrels, no, we don't. I haven't had any squirrel issues here. In BC, some of our BC properties, they have a lot of issues with bears.
Oh.
And bears,
no deer though, right?
Deer, I haven't had deer eating the grapes. But I think they would, again, do some damage in respect to maybe the foliage. But the bears, they can eat tons, as you can imagine, especially at that time of year. They're beefing up for hibernation. So we have to put bear fencing around the vineyard and just to help keep them out.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a thing. Sharing our space with nature, right? All right, so the next wine that we've got, this is our Winemakers Red Blend. It's from 22.
Beautiful
so switching
color.
gears, I know I said 22 was a short crop year. It was. We did have some fruit still in the vineyard that year, just less of it. 22, it was one of those bittersweet things, was a spectacular summer. It was beautiful. It was warm. It was one of those years that we could create amazing Bordeaux reds. Had to watch our whites, make sure we picked them early enough because we had Riesling that year as well. So picked them early enough that we weren't getting cooked flavors or losing all of our acidity. But the reds hung, and it was a clean vintage. And any of the wines that we could make, unfortunately, there was less of them, but the ones that we were able to make are of exceptional quality.
And what is this? This is a blend?
It's a blend, yeah. So Cab Franc, Cab Sauv, and Merlot. It's a combination of, so we've got various blocks of Cab Franc, Merlot, and Cab Sauv throughout the vineyard. The Merlot and Cab Sauv are the last two blocks on the north side of the driveway. And again, they were planted in 2000. Got a couple of different clones in both of the varieties, 2 clones of Merlot and 2 clones of Cab Sauv, which again just lends itself to having a bit more flexibility in regards to wine batches that we produce because we keep it all separate. And then we've got our Cab Franc, which is on the most northern part of the vineyard. I'll talk a bit about it when we get to the small lot Cab Franc because that's, from my perspective, the crown jewel of the property. I've got a very soft spot for that block. But as a result of making some of our A-level wines, so our small lot wines, what we'll do, we'll fulfill what we need there, and then they get blended together in various composition to make the Winemakers red. So yeah, it spends about 12 months in barrels as well. So a blend actually of French and American oak, and about 25% new barrels.
But that's the great thing when you drink wine is you can sit there and just imagine the food that you drink with, that you eat with accompanying it, and then do a direct 180 when you actually do drink it with food. Like, no, I'm going to have it with I think I'll have this with a cheese board. You just never know. But just I love the color of this.
It's really concentrated. You can feel it needs some salt. Like it needs some cheese. That'd be amazing right now just to help soften those tannins.
Even some potato chips would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have some in my car.
There you go.
Run out and get them.
Yeah. But it's got a lot of life, right? Like those tannins, they need a bit of time just to soften, and it's a baby right now.
Yeah. Would you cellar this for a few years and then would it be like meatier and?
Yeah. So like some of the fresh fruit characteristic on the nose would go a little bit more into that savory dried fruit characteristics, but the tannins would soften. And I think that'd be where I would recommend seeing, or at least where I anticipate seeing the biggest benefit.
Right.
To holding on to it for a couple of years. Depends on how you like your wine too, right? If you want more tannin, more structure, because you're eating something like, I'm just thinking of blue cheese and steak. Now that you've mentioned that, like that sounds like this would go amazingly well. And it would taste so different and be a lot softer on the palate. If you want to sit and enjoy it, glass by itself, I'd give it a little bit of time.
Gotcha. I can tell this is a Cab Franc just by smelling it.
Yeah.
Because it's got that peppery, it's like peppery, green pepper.
Green pepper, like that nice, beautiful herbal characteristic.
Really, like punching me in the face with that green pepper on that. I have a bruise.
Yeah.
And what year is this one?
This is from 2020.
This is one of the most aromatic Cab Francs I've ever had in a glass.
Yeah, and it's
I haven't even tasted it yet, but it's like.
And you think about it, it's 2020, so it's been in bottle for a couple of years now. But just give it a bit of time, right? It'll change in your glass so much, and just soak it in. And think back to all the fun that we were navigating back in 2020, right? Like the harvest itself was amazing, but what a time for the rest of the world.
So well,
right? Yeah, me too. And that vintage, I was so grateful to have the job that I had because the vines didn't care that there was a global pandemic. The winery was essential, right? It was on the essential list. So we were still doing what we were doing, and we still had harvest. We still had all of that amazing stuff, which helped give us some normalcy in an otherwise absolutely crazy, chaotic
But you
world.
think about it too, it's like because there was such a lack of, there were no planes in the sky.
Yeah.
There was less traffic. So environmentally, it was probably really great as well because there was so much less of that pollution.
And the nature, like you could see like what birds, like so much more wildlife because of those reasons too. And just insects. And it was very noticeable.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And fortunately, it was a stunning year for us from a grape growing and winemaking standpoint. It was a dry, beautiful, warm summer, very low disease pressure. It was almost like it was nature giving us a little bit of a break. It's like, all right, you're up against enough. Let's let you have an easy harvest. So if there is such a thing as an easy harvest, they all have their challenges, but it was like one of the easier ones that we've been a part of.
You have no staff to help you pick it.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And that was it too. Like having to bring in interns, and we had all of our COVID protocols and what to do if someone got it. And oh boy, yeah, it was a whole nother level. We had other things we had to focus on to keep everyone safe, but it was a great year.
Oh, and it's funny because this smells so peppery, like green peppery, but it doesn't taste like that at all.
No, and that's one of the things that I love about Cab Franc, right? I think in the past, we were talking a little earlier just about how we as a grape industry and wine industry have realized what grows well where. And Cab Franc was one of those grape varieties that can overcrop itself. And so you think back to the Cab Francs, not all of them, but there were quite a few, late 90s, early 2000s, that were weedy. They were green. The color was light. Cab Franc got a bit of a bad rap, right? It was the unsung hero in Bordeaux red blends, but Cab Sauv and Merlot were definitely in the limelight. And a lot of it was because they were green and weedy, and they weren't particularly nice to drink. The acid was out of whack. But over the years, I think the viticultural world has really dialed in how to make good Cab Franc, because that's where you make it, in the vineyard, and making sure there's not too much crop on the vines, listening to the season, tasting the grapes, making sure those pyrazines, those bell pepper characteristics, are not totally off the charts. So a lot of times you get those beautiful herbal characteristics, and the Loire is a region in the world that I garner a lot of inspiration from, and this is that style of wine, right? It's always got that sort of green herbal characteristic on the nose, but it's not got green, unripe, hard tannins. It's ripe, it's fruity, and they're really, you can make some amazing, beautiful wines. And Cab Franc on the bench, it needs heat, so you got to manage and make sure, because it is a bit cooler up here compared to, say, Niagara-on-the-Lake. Manage the crop load, manage everything that is happening in the vineyard, and then you can make some really stunning wines. For us, this piece, as I was mentioning, it's the most northern part of the vineyard. It's actually separated by a little stream. So we started to farm it organically back in 2012. So that block butts up against the Saunders property, which lots of winemakers in the area have sourced fruit from that winery. And then we lease another one called Crabtree, which butts up against it. So we started to farm that entire piece organically. And we've had amazing results. The wines are stunning that come out of there. And it's a very special spot in the vineyard. It's a place that I kind of go just to scout extra long and hide out back there. So if anyone needs to escape a bit, just go check out the Cab Franc. But it's just really great variety that works well for us here. And so much so that we've actually pulled out some of our other blocks that were underperforming. We used to have a Gewurz. We've since pulled all of that out. There's some Pinot Meunier, some Pinot Gris. Taken those blocks out and replanted them with Cab Franc, because we believe so wholeheartedly that it's got a place on the bench and we can make some stunning wines. Get some of that mineral characteristic that's there, that underlying acidity that is present, not too hard, but still present, and making the wines really age-worthy and food-friendly as well. And as a result, just make some stunning wines. So the way we would approach this, we would have various batches of Cab Franc. We'll go through and select individual barrels that will end up staying in barrel for anywhere between 18 and 24 months. So unlike the Winemakers Red that comes out after 12 months, this wine sees a longer time in barrel. So typically around the two-year mark.
What kind of oak do you use? Is it French oak?
For the Cab Franc, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, this nose on this is just so vegetable-y. But the taste is just completely different. It's very soft.
Yeah, the velvety tannin.
Yeah, total of that. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, the velvety. Yeah,
when you said blanket, I knew that's where you were going for.
Good God, this is a great wine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well done, Emma.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I am. I'm like, it's the beautiful color. It's just really cool as a Cab Franc. It's beautiful. And I love that. I love that Cab Francs are becoming like that other wine here, because again, we're talking about, like, everyone says Chardonnay and Pinot, like it's the new Burgundy area, right? But I think that Riesling and Cab Franc are also like the Big Bang Theory here, right? Like, they're just like, these are our wines as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And as I said, when I was in school, I just remember there was a cult following for 30 Bench, and it was the place to go to get your Rieslings, to get your Bordeaux red blends, and to be able to, again, maintain that integrity of what the vision of this place was back in those days is it's an honor to be able to be that person to help continue to create those wines and make sure that that's still protected after all this time, because it's been a mainstay in the industry for a long time.
Yeah, and it's like so cool that it's still continuing and has such a like honestly, it's one of the places that when people ask me where to go, I always say here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because it's just the surrounding is beautiful, the wines are fantastic, and the history, which I didn't know about until today, is just so cool. So it's like the whole package.
It is. Yeah, we've got quite the story.
It's been such a pleasure to speak with you today.
Yeah, I'm so glad you came by, Andrea.
I'm really glad that we had a chance to sit and talk with you and to just sample these amazing wines and see these beautiful glasses as well. It's been so wonderful. So listener, I hope that you enjoyed this visit as much as I did. And I hope that you will visit our show notes, because we will have a list of all the wines that we've tasted. We'll have photos, and we'll also have some info on the winery so you can come here yourself. And don't forget to like and follow Spill the Wine on all platforms. We're on Facebook, Spill the Wine Podcast. We're on Instagram, Spill the Wine _podcast. And we have a website. We're so excited about it. It's spillthewine.ca. And you can contact us there. You can email us at contact@spillthewine.ca, or you can use our old email address, which is podcastspillthewine@gmail.com. Either way, we'll get back to you. You can ask us about wine tours. I will gladly take you on a Spill the Wine tour and bring you to these beautiful wineries. And we would just hope that you will come out and discover what a beautiful region the Niagara Bench is and understand how much I love it. Because when you're here, you will know. So I just want to say, oops, wrong glass. Cheers, Emma. Thank you. We'll see you guys on our next episode.